Welcome, everybody, to tonight's call. My name is Murray Fleming. I am the founder of Country Meats Direct, a home delivery free range meat service in Sydney, New South Wales. And I have been given the great privilege tonight to host Adam, that silver guy, because Kelly from myself, Reliance is off on a family camping expedition, and she's asked me to fill in. So welcome everybody to the chat tonight. It's going to be fascinating. I'm really happy that Kelly asked me to do this because I've been dabbling in precious metals since 2019. And I myself have got a lot of questions to ask Adam. And I think for, anybody that's, toying with it or, is ready to take the plunge into maybe doing some investing in metals is great because it is a very interesting time for the market, especially silver. So Adam, I'll hand the mic over to you now. If you just like to introduce yourself to everybody, and then we can go from there, mate.
I'll start by saying I've had a completely technology, ridiculously bad day all day today. Nothing I've clicked has worked. And so I'm really grateful to the universe that I've got this far in this meeting so far without being kicked off or kicked out or shut down. So here I am. G'day. Murray, thank you for hosting, man. Well done.
You're welcome, mate. Nice to meet you.
Lovely to be here. How many people have we got in the room?
We've
20,
got
19.
19 so far, so a good number.
Nice. The topic is quite large, and so anything I say is irrelevant because of the largeness of the topic. What I'd love to do is be responsive and answer questions because everyone comes to this topic with some built-in ideas about what money is, what currency is, what's going on in the world at the moment, what gold and silver even are. And so I think I'll just be uniquely responsive and be the real life brochure rather than try to tell you anything about where I've come from or why I'm here. I'll give you the minimum required for a polite handshake. I'm 60 in February. For my sins in my work life, I've been a global product manager for IBM. I don't know why I give you that one to begin with, because I've also been a pizza delivery kid, and all of us are flexible in that way, aren't we? It's not so much what you do, it's the kind of person that you are. So who am I? I'm a little bit weird. I'm clearly bald. I'm a Kiwi. I've got two beautiful children. My daughter, Brianna, I'm actually sitting in her dining room right now in Bendigo in Victoria. She's faffing around somewhere nearby, having just fed me a beautiful duck dinner with her partner, Brad. One more sentence. I came to this bullion question when I got made redundant and handed a few $1,000s by an employer. And I thought, I need to do something useful with this, not fritter it away, because I was broke at the time, essentially. And that was back in 2020, the beginning of the war. And I bought myself some silver Krugerrands. And within a few weeks, I'd sold them to all my friends. So that was a bit dumb. But about a year later, it struck me that there was an opportunity in the market for the supply of bullion to people who wanted to remain private and anonymous and be independent from the world. And of course, the freedom and truther circles that I move in, and all the other names that they give us, we seem to be birds of a feather in so much as wanting to just get on with it. We want to transact. We want to, we want to buy your meat, Murray. We want to be able to store away a little bit of our savings and wealth. We want to buy and sell property. We want to do all of that without being scrutinized, without any third party having any interest in what we're doing. I'm very heavy on an idea called privacy first commerce. You'll see me talk about that I like to think I've invented it, but of course I haven't. But I will be branding that PFC, Privacy First Commerce, as the main thing that I do. All the people who came to the MSR Expo bought a little bit of silver and gold from me, but you don't know their names, and nor does anybody else. And for some of them, I don't know their names either, and I quite like it that way. So with that as an intro, who's got the first question?
Well, I'm happy to fire away. I have put a note in the chat, guys. Please feel free to write questions in the chat, and I can relay them to Adam, or let me know if you'd like to jump in on the audio. But Adam, I guess gold and silver as money, not currency, money. It both have been around for a very, very long time, and one of the, I guess, allures, to those types of exchange products for people, in our community is, when the banks go down, when the network stops working, when the power gets turned off, or when they decide, they don't like your social media post, right? As has happened to a lot of famous people recently. I think Nigel Farage is probably the most famous person to be debanked in the last couple of years, but it's definitely something that can happen. So in terms of uncertain times, can you talk a little bit about what you could do if you had some gold and silver in those sort of times?
You've absolutely beautifully touched on 4 or 5 key issues, and I'm going to answer just one of them. This question of are we all about to experience some kind of apocalyptic ending to the thing we call banking? And I don't believe that we are, but it is massively going to change. What they want, and when I say they, I mean even that raises a whole bunch of questions, doesn't it? Who are they? What they want is control and the ability to determine what you eat, where you move, what you spend, how much you spend, whether you're allowed to spend. And to do that, they have to bring in a system based around ones and zeros, and the idea that transactions have to be digital to be tracked and to be recorded, turned on or turned off. I'm not entirely sure that it's going to come the way we think it's going to come. Now, certainly the Chinese have been fiddling with their social credit scheme and system where they know what your face looks like as you walk down the street. And there's a bit of humor about how identically similar China look. I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere. But the fact that they want to do it to us too leads me to one of my favorite quotes, which is, that which cannot go on will not go on. If something is so ridiculous on the face of it that it's an idea that is so unnatural, then it just won't proceed. And I mean, I for one am not coming with you into the world that says that my face becomes someone else's property to scan and measure and record. I have no way around that right now. Could walk around with a motorcycle helmet on my head all day, I suppose. And I really don't know how to get around this system, because they're going to spend a lot of money on trying to watch what we all do. I don't quite know how to specifically answer your question.
Yeah, so we could probably gameplay like a real world example. So with my business, if somebody does a transaction with me and we build up, a bit of a history together, I give them a special code, and then they can use that code in the checkout, and it basically means that they can pay cash at the door. So they can shop online, but they can pay cash to one of my drivers when they do the delivery. And, in a, post-apocalyptic world, if we still had the internet, then they could pay the driver in gold or silver. and then I could use the gold or silver to pay my suppliers, my farmers, etc. If we did not have the internet, obviously it'd have to be one-on-one. But if if the financial system was to go down, having some gold or silver, that you have on hand, could be advantageous to deal with, vendors such as myself, people that are actually thinking, about this as a very unlikely possibility. And also, from a portability perspective, you can move a lot of money in a backpack if you have to get out of Dodge, so to speak. Do you, Adam, do you see a lot of people getting, into the space for those sort of reasons, or are people more looking on the lines of investments?
I think you're about to fall off your chair with what I'm going to describe to you next. For 4 years, and with an extreme period last week because of the way the market was moving, some months I sell 500 and 600 ounces of silver. Last week it was 800.
Wow.
So people are already thinking about this topic, and my clients now for 4 years have been asking me, how do I solve the problem? How do I allow them to transact with each other, or create a system for them to transact with each other in total anonymity and total privacy? So I built it. I've already built it. It's called the Silver ATM, and it operates just like a regular ATM, except it's not a hole in the wall where you put the useless pieces of paper in or take them out. It's actually conceptually vaulted silver. It's yours, and you go and spend it anywhere you want to spend it. But we send the vendor Australian dollars. We BSB it to their bank account. So you might buy a pair of shoes for $200. We'll BSB them the $200 once you ask them for their BSB and account number. It comes to them from a bank account that we tell them the name of the bank account, so they expect it, they see it. And so on your behalf, I've just bought your shoes, and I own your shoes for a short period of time until you send me some silver. Now, if you're clever, and 90 of my clients are already clever enough to do this, you will have sent me an ounce or two, or maybe 5. I've got some who have sent me 100, and we store that securely. It's theirs. Happy to sign a receipt. Happy to give them a formal letter, whatever, but many of them don't even want paperwork at that level for obvious reasons. And so while I'm sitting on a little bit of your silver, I'm armed to be the converter, if you will, converting your silver into an Aussie dollar spend. So you can go and buy absolutely anything you want to buy. And you're doing that indirectly using the silver that you own. Now, if the vendor is clever, they'll want the actual silver.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll send them silver as well. I don't care. We'll send them dollars, we'll send them silver. It doesn't really matter. But all the work to create a highly lubricated triangle, which is the triangle between Aussie dollars, goods and services of any kind, and silver. I'll just repeat that. The three apex points are dollars, goods and services of any kind, and actual bullion. So we sit in the middle of that triangle and move any of those items to any other item. So we can convert dollars to silver, silver to dollars, dollars to goods and services, goods and services to silver, goods and services to dollars. Whichever way around that triangle you want to move, we've got services that help you move in any direction. I have permanently at the moment $5,000 sitting waiting for my clients to ask me, Adam, will you please pay $100 because I've just bought some 2-stroke motor oil for my chainsaw, and the local steel shop, here's his BSB number and account number. So I'll pay that and draw down off my client's silver that's already in our storage. I don't know if that answers your question, because the topic of creating this kind of transaction environment it's quite a big one. It's got a lot of moving parts, but it's something that I've been doing now for quite a while.
Yeah, it seems very interesting. I think it sounds like a good string to the bow. Like you don't want to rely on, one way to pay for something ever, really. And the fact that we all do at the moment is kind of crazy and kind of scary. It reminds me of, recently we had some, extreme weather events and, people were robbing the service station because they couldn't use their cards and they didn't have any cash. It's just wild.
Wow.
Adam, we had a really good question in the chat, and Kimberly's asked, what's your take on investing in gold versus silver? And I would like to also add to that question, would you be able to touch on the gold silver ratio when you answer that?
Nice. I'm going to start with a statistic that shows you where gold is at in its lifetime duration. So since the beginning of time, or the time when we measured gold in US dollars, it took gold 120 years under the measure of what is gold, an ounce of gold worth in US dollars. It took gold 120 years to reach the $1,000 an ounce mark. So from the late 1800s to just early in this century, gold reached the point where it could be expressed as $1,000 an ounce, 120 odd years. It then took gold something like 20 years to go from the $1,000 an ounce mark to the $2,000 an ounce mark. So the initial period from 0 to 1,000, 120 years, and then the next 1,000 was achieved in about 20 years. The period after that, where it went from 2,000 to 3,000, was 4 years. And that period where gold hit $3,000 an ounce was earlier this year. The period then for gold to go from 3,000 US an ounce to 4,000 US an ounce was 7 months. Because we've just gone through 4,000 and up to about 4,300. It's pulled back a wee bit just for the short term to about 4,100, or in round numbers. And so you can see that what's happened is the value we've given gold as against the US dollar has been quite an extreme hockey stick. Some call it a parabola, some call it an exponential curve, call it whatever you like. It's a steepening curve that doesn't reflect gold's value at all. What it reflects is the increased diminishing value of the United States dollar. You're watching an empire in decline. Of the 3,400 currencies we know that no longer exist, they all belong to empires that have come and gone. We don't have Greek or Roman or Persian or Egyptian currency in our pocket anymore. All those empires have had their day. They come and they go, but they all have a similar story. Financially, they make so much of their own currency that they devalue it terribly by just producing more and more and more of it, until finally each individual item, each individual dollar or dinar or whatever it is, shekel, is worthless. And I like to explain that by the Adam and Eve story, where, going back to the story of Adam and Eve, if you consider they might have looked around them at all the natural wealth, gold, silver, bronze, copper, zinc, water, iron ore, aluminium, coal, bauxite, anything, whatever, the world's natural resources. And if they'd said to each other, we need a way of measuring this, and they created a little bit of paper with one written on it, then all the items on the world at that time would have been valued at, or that one item, that one, we'll call it $1 for now, but that one currency coupon, it represented everything on the planet. Now, as soon as you duplicate it to become 2, then the original one goes down in its value by half. It represents now half the resources on the planet. And what we've been doing in every empire that has eventually disappeared up its own clacker is we've been producing currency coupons, and they each, as you produce more, they each represent less and less of the resources that they're measuring. Do you understand that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's the money print to go burts, the debasement of currency, which drives up the price of gold, but gold's not necessarily going up in price. It's the volume of units in circulation that's increasing.
Spot on. So at the beginning of what we're calling COVID, they brought into being as much currency as they had brought into being in the previous 100 years.
Can you say that again a little bit slower? Because I heard this not so long ago and I almost fell off my chair, and I think people could have easily missed that. Can you repeat it?
They produced, created, printed, whatever you like to call it. In fact, for most of it, it's just ones and zeros being created in a computer system. But they created, out of thin air, more currency in the period between 2020 and 2023. In that 3-year period, they brought into being more currency than they had brought into being in the previous 100 years.
So
and they're about to do it again.
it only makes sense then, Adam, that gold doubled in price because there's double the amount of currency units in circulation.
And in the same way that was gold's experience, it's the same for the experience of your property, your home, or your car, or any other item that you care to measure. Your house isn't going up in value by double from $500,000 to $1 million. What's happening is the buyer needs twice as many dollars because each individual dollar is half of its value over time.
That's right. That's right. So
no long and blue hot air into my house to make it expand.
Sorry, mate, you were just dropping out then. So in terms of bringing it back to investing, if someone's looking to, say they've got $1,000 to start with, and they're interested in getting into gold and silver, both are obviously good investments, but at this current point in time,
the way to think about this, Murray, is not that it's an investment, but that it's a protection against loss. So let's imagine 120 years ago, you're standing in New York at Times Square, and you have 3 items. The first item is an ounce of gold, which is about the size of a 6-sided dice. And you're holding that ounce of gold in one hand. The year is 1910. In your other hand, you hold the US dollar equivalent of that ounce of gold, which in 1910 was $14. And standing next to you, wearing a beautiful Italian suit, is a man who wants to sell you that suit. He's come from Milan, and he's in New York because you are ordering a beautiful Italian suit from him. He happens to be wearing it for you right now because you've run out of hands. And his suit, the suit, is also worth $14 US in 1910. Weirdly, an ounce of gold would buy that suit off him too, because it's valued at $14 US too. So we have three items, and our culture calls them all equivalent, but they're very not equivalent. And I'll show you what happens with time. So you and this man are now going to travel through time. You're holding the gold and you're holding the $14. And you arrive in 2020. You're holding still an ounce of gold and $14 cash. The ounce of gold is now worth, let's just in round numbers call it $4,000. And the man wearing the suit, weirdly, his suit is also now, if you and I were to go to Milan today and get the very best beautiful suit, do you know that it would cost us an ounce of gold? About $4,000. But those two items, while they've traveled well through time, don't match up to the third item. You're still holding $14, 14 US dollars, and they will buy you a cup of coffee and an ice cream if you're lucky. So gold travels through time and retains its value. It also retains its buying power, whereas currencies don't. They don't travel through time. And we all know this on a micro scale. When your employer gives you $100, if you were to go to IGA, Woolworths, Coles, supermarkets today and spend $100, your shopping basket fills with $100. But if you try and do that in a year's time, you'll get $96 worth of goodies. Now, so on one escalator, on the currency escalator, your dollars are losing their buying power every day. But on the precious metals escalator, you're actually on the up all the time.
So precious metals are like a battery that doesn't bleed energy. You know, you work hard, you convert your work into energy, you store that energy in the precious metals, and that energy is retained and can still produce the same amount as it could produce then later in life. So just then pushing you on, I know technically it's a hedge or it's protection, but pushing you back a little bit on the investment question, then the gold to silver ratio, you know, from a trading perspective, let's not think of it as investing. Let's think of it as, you know, where is the market right now? The gold to silver ratio, and correct me if I'm wrong, is in silver's favor historically. And, you know, if you were to get into precious metals, you know, and you were going to allocate a certain amount to gold and a certain amount of silver, what would you recommend to people?
Most of my clients are doing an 80-20 split, 80% silver and 20% gold by dollar spend. Let's go back a step to what is natural. Gold and silver and platinum and palladium and rhodium are the 5 precious metals. And just let's look at gold an ounce versus silver in their natural ratio. So when at a gold mine, silver is dug up out of the ground often in most gold mines with the gold in a ratio of about 16-1 on average. And what that means is that if you imagine nature to be a good guide, then an ounce of gold at, let's call it $4,000 US. And just for those of you who want a quick conversion to Australian dollars, an ounce of gold at the moment at retail is about $6,500, roughly, within a few dollars either way. So, but we'll continue with the US dollars at $4,000. So that means a silver ounce should be roughly 1/16 if we go by nature's guide. For those of you with a quick calculator, I'm just going to do that. I don't know what that number is, but I'm going to very quickly.
$250.
How many?
$250.
And so why then is silver right now in US dollars approximately 48? Why is it so undervalued? Why is it so controlled? Why is it being held down? And the answer is because it has some amazing properties that no other metal has, and it exists in two worlds. It exists in the industrial world, and I'll cover off some of the uses there in a moment, but it also exists in the monetary world. So silver is both a monetary metal and an industrial metal. Now, its industrial uses are in the area of medicine, of solar power, of batteries and electrical vehicles, and the military love it. There's 8 kilograms of silver in every Tomahawk missile. Silver is also weirdly dispersed in its use. It's not expensive enough to go and recover it, so it ends up being consumed. Obviously, as a missile, it gets consumed. But in electronics, particularly solar panels and batteries, it gets used up and consumed. And silver is antimicrobial and antibacterial when you filter it down and put it into a water solution. Colloidal silver, for those of you who already use it, you'll know that 10 parts per million, i.e. nearly nothing. You can't see it. It still looks like water, but as a colloidal silver solution, silver is an antibacterial and antimicrobial mouthwash, drink, whatever you want. You know, if you drink 20 liters of it, you will turn purple. So don't do that. But, 10 mils, 20 mils every day is incredibly good for your health. We called them blue bloods, the royals, because their silver cutlery and crockery gave up a little silver and their blood actually changed color a little bit towards the blue end of the spectrum. They went blue slightly, enough that was where their nickname came from. So
Wow.
silver has this weird set of properties, including being the single most electrically conductive metal, more than copper, more than anything else. And in its capacity as both an industrial, medical, electrical, military, and monetary metal, it's got a really a huge set of benefits and attributes that no other metal has. I'm not sure if that answers your question directly, but at the moment, the gold-silver ratio is about 82 to 1. So,
I think
the pricing of it.
Yeah, I guess from if I put my trader's hat on, I would say, there's asymmetry there. Like to me, silver could go to 250 US an ounce quite easily. At which stage maybe, I would convert my silver to gold because it's at the, at sort of that level where you might start thinking about that. I believe that the silver price has been actively suppressed. It seems to me like there's a lot of people with vested interest to keep it down. But the thing is that when the dam breaks, the dam breaks. And I've suggested to all my friends and family to get a little bit of silver because I think that, it's only a matter of time before the dam breaks. And there's been a lot of talk recently about bullion dealers running out of silver. Have you heard anything like that, Adam?
On the grounds that it's going to hurt my business, my service. Silver right now is in very short supply. So it's not easy to find exactly what you want, but it is easy to find something. So there's occasionally particular products that just aren't in stock right now and they're 3 to 5 weeks away, but there's always products of some other specification. Instead of 1 ounce coins, you might have to buy yourself 30 of those in the form of a 1 kilogram bar. So it's not that silver is super tight in terms of its supply yet, but we've had a little taster of it in the last 4 weeks. I've got quite a few orders in the system that have been delayed by 10 to 12 days. And so we're starting to feel that squeeze. Yes. I don't
That's
know how
very interesting.
I don't know how bad it'll get.
There's two questions in the chat that we could probably tie together. So one of the questions is, what do you think about buying silver that doesn't have a denomination like identification? So I guess that could be a bar which doesn't have a, a weight stamp, or a coin that might not have a dollar stamp. And then the other question, which is quite similar, is somebody mentioned silver cutlery. So in terms of getting into silver, if somebody had, equal weight of silver that wasn't properly marked, or perhaps was, silverware, is that going to be worth a lot less? Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, the blunt fact of it is that an ounce of silver is an ounce of silver. So the question then becomes proving that it's pure silver, and that can be done with a piece of technology called an XRF scanner. So we have the ability very quickly, cheaply, and there's several of them around Melbourne where I live, or I live near Bendigo, but there's several of them around Melbourne, and people will scan your metal for you for free, and they'll tell you exactly the technical, chemical makeup of it. As to coins or bars that have or don't have registration numbers or particular symbols or things we like to overlay, you've got to remember all those systems for overlaying dollar value on a piece of nature, because silver is natural. It's not worth $1 or $2 until we say that it is. And the market says that an ounce is worth 48 US. So I can print whatever I like, put a pretty picture of a horse or a lion or a dragon on it in a 2,500 degree fire. When it melts down to being a lump, it's still an ounce of silver. So the question of how pretty it is almost irrelevant. And of course, you get a whole corner of the market and a community who love to collect old coins or collect any kind of coin. If they're buying a modern one, they're buying it because it's pretty, or they want to give their daughter a particular animal, a koala or a kookaburra. But the reality of it is it's an ounce of silver or it isn't.
Okay, so that speaks to the value, I guess, in terms of um, tradability, usability. Your pool may be slightly smaller. It might be easier to say, give me a silver ounce coin with a marking that I understand and am familiar with for my meat, but it would be harder to give me, say, a bunch of forks. But if somebody walked into a bullion dealer, or spoke to a professional such as yourself, or someone had one of these machines, then it would be worth around the same money. Is that about right?
Identical.
Okay,
So,
great. And
so when the fork is scanned and it's shown to be plate, a surface covering of silver, the machine will show that. If it's a pure silver fork, which is unlikely these days, but there's a few of them around, it's more a collector's piece than anything else. You probably wouldn't want to give it to a bullion dealer. You'd want to stick it in a drawer for 100 years.
yeah, or eat dinner with it every night.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just going to grab a little box that has some metal in it to show you. Hang on.
Yeah, great.
So the top row here, from your left to right, is a gram of silver, and on the right, on the left, is a 5-ounce bar.
Because of your background filter, it's only focusing on your face.
Aha. How about now?
Yeah, it's not going to work because of the technology, unfortunately. But
Okay.
you can describe it to us. We just can't see it clearly.
So a piece of silver the size of half your pinky fingernail is about $6. And that's 1 gram. But then, of course, if you multiply that 1 gram by the 1,000 grams that are in a 1 kilo bar, your maths then tells you that a kilo should be about 6 grand, which it isn't. It's about 3. So the graph that shows cost per ounce as you come down from a 1 kilo bar down to a 1 gram tab is not a straight line. It's also awfully nearly exponential. So you're paying for the convenience of a small transaction piece, or the other way to look at that is you're getting a discount if you're buying in larger chunks. The cost to manufacture a 1 kilo bar is a lot less than the cost to manufacture 1,000 1 gram tabs. And so you're really paying for the manufacturing and design of those smaller items. And with gold, it's even more extreme. As you come down to usable gold, you pay a lot more for a small half a gram coin. I mean, a 20th ounce gold coin right now is about $400. So if you take that into an ounce and multiply that by 20, you're talking about an ounce being 8 grand, which it isn't. It's 6.5.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how that would play out in reality if we were to ever use it for trade again, like in mass. I'm sure that it would
I'm not
even
sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I want to support the idea that we might, if be using this for trade again. In my community, my customers daily exchange silver coins. They don't daily exchange gold coins because the value of items they're exchanging with each other don't tend to warrant the use of gold. But if they did, they would. So it's not fantasy. This stuff is money. It has been for thousands and thousands of years. Those of us who are using it daily and sit in a community that does not want to be watched, we are not the alternative. We are in nature, using nature's product. And the world of the legal and the world of man-made and the world of legal tender and the world of reserve bank and the world of government, that's the false world. But the wool has been so beautifully pulled over our eyes for hundreds of years that we've forgotten about that. And when you start reminding yourself of it, there are all kinds of realizations that pop up, and it takes a wee while to swallow them. But in your heart, you know them to be true. And it doesn't take long before you move from being a tester, an experimenter of the world of argenterie. It's called argent because that's the AG, the chemical symbol for silver. It's money. That's the French word for money. These things exist as a species money. And what we use is legal tender exchange notes. They're signed by the man or woman who is the head of the Reserve Bank of Australia. And technically, they're his or hers. It cost them 34 cents to make a $100 bill in a factory. So how is it $100 of anything? And the answer is, it's not $100 of anything. It's a 34-cent piece of paper with some pretty ink on it that we've invented to use as a measuring device. And remember that dollar is like kilogram. It's how much does this cup weigh in dollars? So there we are. We got your problem again with the focus. There we are. If I put it nice and close to my face, I get a nice clear cup. But, if I was to buy this cup at Kmart, it would cost me $6. Well, $6 could also buy me a pharmaceutical product from the chemist. I don't know if you can see that. It's Nurofen. So, we use the word dollar to mean both the noun, this is a dollar, but we also use it as a measuring system. We used to use ounces. So we would say, I've got ounces of silver and ounces of gold, not dollars of silver or dollars of gold. Dollar is the new expression. Dollar is the measuring system that's been foisted upon us. I don't deal in dollars, I deal in ounces. We move around ounces.
Yeah, well, yeah, like you said, with nature, weight is a real thing, isn't it? It's a physical real thing, weight, whereas dollar is just a describing word of a fiat, a fake made up construct, really. Probably one of the best scams I think ever pulled on the population, definitely. Kelly was mentioning to me, Adam, that you might have something happening in Melbourne. Is there a new shop, or can you fill me in on that?
I've just committed to some office space. It's a serviced office environment. So, I have stumbled across an organization called Waterman who run serviced offices. And the one I've connected to is right on Collins Street in the heart of the CBD. And it's 300 meters from 6 or 8 of my favorite suppliers. So I'm moving up a little bit in the world to a prestigious place where I can actually make somebody a lovely cup of coffee, talk to them about their bullion interests, and then immediately go and get that material for them and bring it back to them. So it's a little bit of a move forward for me. I'm only going to be down there two days a week. That's not the exciting part. The exciting part is once a fortnight, we're going to run an evening dinner. We'll be inviting 10 people, that's 5 couples, and we'll be feeding them a lovely roast meal and a glass of wine for the first hour or so. And then for the second hour, we'll be answering their questions about their interest in bullion. It's back to the old marketing processes that companies used back in the 80s, but I'm only going to get people who come along to those dinners keen to have a discussion around what they do with their 10, 20, 50, 100, 200, because they know that I'm going to vet them very carefully and make sure they're not just there for a feed.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. A real nice way to to do business. If somebody wanted to come and visit you, in your new store, or get in touch with you, how would they do that?
The very best way for them to contact me is just pick up the phone, say hello, send me a text saying, "Hi, Adam, I'd like to connect." And then I'll take them through the process of joining our Telegram group. I'll train them on how to use the ATM, which is available at thesilveratm.com. I think right from the heart of my service, I've always wanted to actually talk to people. Everything I do is human backed. I'm not big, even having come from a technology world and technology working life. I don't want technology to get in the way of the services that I offer. So you're doing business with me, and you're being served by a human at all times. We don't have any links to anything electronic that pushes numbers up to banks or keeps a database or whatever. Even in the ATM, people are known by a code number. There's no use of their name or any other revealing data. So if people stumble across all the transactions that the ATM processes, there's no way of telling who's who in the zoo. I've spent a lot of time focusing on that. Can I run through a couple of these questions very quickly and answer them for the people that have asked them?
That'd be great.
Real quick. So Elmer, you ask, are we talking about silver bullion, not silver as products like forks, knives, and spoons? Well, yep, hopefully you heard the discussion around the forks question, but yes, my suppliers supply 999 silver, which is pure silver, and 99.99 gold, which is as close as you can get to pure gold. Where am I based? Says Nicola, I'm in Castlemaine, which is just south of Bendigo in Victoria, but my customers are Australia-wide, and I use distributors and supply services that are all over the country, Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne, to get goods out to my clients. If we're sending stuff out, it's always tracked and insured, and I guarantee that it will arrive. Otherwise, I send you some more. And because we've insured it, so we make a claim, and that's how I can afford to send you whatever you've ordered, such that you will get it no matter what. If someone uses silver that they bought from a dealer, which is KYC registered, so it's not the dealer that's KYC registered, it's you. They're after your details, your passport, your driver license, often your Medicare card, your street address, and you have a receipt or certificate for it, and then you sell it or use it for a purchase. Can the ATO do an audit and then fine you, or is it impossible to track? So your question is implying that there's some illegal activity related to gold and silver. Gold and silver, there's nothing about them that is unlawful or illegal. They're a natural product. And the ATO are not interested in how much you've got unless you tell them that you've got some. And then they'll want to catch you for capital gains and all sorts of nonsense. That's why my services supply to people who don't really want it known what they have. I'm the fall guy for that, because on paper, at all the distributors where we buy it, they've been bought on my account. But clearly, I don't have any of the gold and silver that I've been buying for my clients. They've got it. And who are they? Well, I'm not telling you, and I'm certainly not telling anybody else. So there's a little highly lawful, very clever little activity going on here where I'm selling a service, and the service is to keep you private and quiet and unknown. So there's no third party interested in what you are doing. Alexa says, what happens if the dollar collapses completely? How much is gold, silver, precious metals worth then? There's a fascinating thing going on called a K graph, where the dollar is sliding down one leg of the K and the gold and silver are going up the other leg of the K. And your point is beautifully made, Alexa. When the dollar goes to zero, gold goes to infinity. So who sets the standard for what it's worth? You and I do. And every one of us who buys or sells it, we set the value. We control the transaction. We choose how much we buy or sell it for. And that data, which is usually gathered through the bullion wholesalers, that data is aggregated up to systems that watch all of it worldwide. But mostly it's controlled at a level where the London Bullion Exchange and the New York COMEX, because they're dealing in tons or thousands or millions of ounces at a time, our little 5 or 10 ounce purchases or 100-ounce purchases don't really figure on a global scale. So they're not interested in our data, but they do watch it globally. And so the numbers are set globally and very soon out of China. It seems to me that the worth of precious metals becomes more subjective without a monetary value attached. You've just spoken a delicate and well-worded oxymoron. Gold and silver are money. They are the original value. They are nature. We measure everything else against them. The dollar is the thing that is the imaginary thing that comes and goes. So when you say it seems that the worth of precious metals becomes more subjective without a monetary value, that gold and silver are the monetary value. It's the dollar that's declining and disappearing. Jack says, just stepping back to the silver ATM for a moment, it sounds like the ATM is almost like a silver debt card. Oh, yeah, no, not really. Or debit card. I mean, functionally, it allows you to spend your silver. So, in terms of, the tap and go mentality that people have with their iWatch or their phone in a vendor, where they'll tap it on the FPOS terminal. I mean, that's a heartbeat and one step away from having your iris scanned or your blood pressure taken. So we're not going anywhere near any of that. There is no physical connection between the ATM and the world. What about getting precious metal to use the silver ATM? Says Deb. Well, people just package it up, send it insured. I live in a very secure private place in the forest. I don't tell people too much about exactly where I live for obvious reasons, because my clients have quite a bit of their precious metals in my trust and in my care. But I do live in a tiny home in the middle of nowhere. My nearest neighbor is 3 kilometers away. I don't own the land. I rent it from a friend. And I'm a bit weird like that. I'm out of the way. I don't have a letterbox. I've got a lot of solar panels and some batteries and plenty of fresh water falling from the sky. So I'm a bit weird like that. I'm a typical Kiwi. We love our gallivanting, us New Zealanders. Dominic says, so if we wanted to sell silver using my service to avoid possible capital gains, is that possible? There's a politically correct response here for you, Dominic, and it's you may well possibly think that, but I couldn't comment. The answer, of course, is yes. Love to help you with that. I bought an Italian suit for $40 from Vinnie's. I love you, Paul. Next time you're there, can you grab me one too, please? Excellent. Some great questions. Very, very good questions. Thank you.
Just on one of the points, it was Alexa, and I think if the dollar was to collapse, there's no one of the guests. I think if the dollar was to collapse,
it's not an if, Murray. It's not an if. It's when.
No. Okay, so what I mean is if the financial rails we currently work on were to collapse. So just dollars and aside, if our current financial system we use to transact, i.e. net bank, credit cards, debit cards, etc., if all of that was to stop working, how would somebody interact with myself, as a providor? If they came to me with gold and silver, of course I would sell them my goods. At the time, I would probably value my goods at the previous. Obviously, we would eventually convert to weight rather than dollars, but in that first short period of time, I would be converting, my goods or services at the previous exchange rate, but I would add a certain percentage for volatility onto that, which could be anywhere from 10 to 50%, I guess. And then the free market would decide over time, how many grams, ounces, etc., goods and services are worth. Adam, how long do you reckon that process could take?
How long before we're in that scenario?
No. If we were to get to that scenario, how long do you think it would take for, the free market to say, that car is worth 10 ounces as an example, rather than that car's worth, $10,000?
We're already there.
I mean, the average person in their lexicon using ounces and grams to describe the value of goods and services.
The average person thinks that a piece of zinc and brass or aluminium or partly copper, a $2 coin, the average person thinks that $2 coin is worth $2. It's made for about 14 cents. Its base metal is 14 cents on the open market. So the average person is walking around asleep. The average person thinks that currency is money. The average person forgets who they are and how powerful they are and how duped they are. And the average person forgets that the word government is Latin. The govern bit means to control, and the ment, M-E-N-T, is to do with all things related to your mind. Think mental and mensis. So the average person believes that they're being well served by people who are trying to control their mind. So, I think we're already there. I just think the club of those of us who understand where we're at is quite limited and quite small, but growing very, very quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think this
Can
really...
I jump in for a second, Mary?
Yep.
I think the question here is for Mary. So if him and I were trading with the currency, when I'm buying meat of Murray, but that money is no longer available because in that sense it collapsed, right? None of us have it anymore in that sense.
I'm sorry to be so obstreperous on this. The currency is not available, but you know what happens, Mids? I'm hesitating getting to this point, but I'll say it outright and bluntly. You will transact with each other at a level where you feel comfortable. It's called the market. And we don't have any systems in place that are not at their core exactly this. People choosing to give something a value and agreeing between the vendor and the spender that it's worth X ounces or X dollars.
I think that covers the question a bit. So Mary and I, if I wanted to say, okay, I want 20 sausages, right? And we would then decide what that be worth.
2 grams of silver for you, Maz.
Yeah. Well, make it 40 sausages then.
And if you want a whole cow butchered, it'll be an ounce of gold.
Yeah. And that's, I think, was your question.
Really?
How can we transfer the value that we put to it previously if we now want to transfer that into what can I make that in ounces if we never practice and use that before? Because I think the mindset that most of us are still in is that we're thinking of it regardless in the dollar value that we paid for it. Right?
Absolutely.
For the ounces. So that mindset is going to be really difficult over time to step away from, because I look at my silver and I'm going like, well, I paid 6 for it that many years ago. Now I believe it's worth 10. What can I get for it? But we're thinking of it as the value that we bought it.
I understand. Yeah, I understand. And it's a very powerful point that you both raise. I am of the belief, and I can't prove, but I am of the belief that the sense for what a half ounce or a 1/10 ounce or a 1/4 ounce of anything, platinum, palladium, rhodium, gold, or silver, or a bag of coal, or 3 chickens and a goat for that matter, I think that the sense of what any of these things are worth is going to level out, to even out, to create its own equilibrium exceedingly quickly. And it'll be based on all the natural laws of the jungle. Can I eat it? Will it keep me warm? Will it sustain my children? Can it be used to build the bridge? Can we repair the car with it? Is it fuel? All of those basic, right back to the sense of what is nature, what is real, and what is true. And so some fascinating things will suddenly become very valuable and quickly traded, like dandelions, for God's sake, you know, stuff that we know to be naturally very good for us and powerful. And so I think that it will be a whole lot of micro conversations, but ultimately communities will come to their own value equilibrium.
I heard a saying today that goes, the market is always right. So it's whatever people are actually willing to pay.
Bingo.
And what people are like actually willing to say, well, this is what this is worth.
Bingo.
Exactly.
Bingo.
Exactly what I was about to say, Alana, that things are only worth what somebody's willing to pay. And I think because we're using currency at the moment, we know what we can get with that currency that we're receiving or that we're giving away. So that, yeah, exactly, with that equilibrium, once we work out, oh, well, you know, this ounce of silver, I can buy this, or when someone's buying something off us, we then know what we can do with that ounce of silver elsewhere.
Yeah, well, that's
The frightening realization.
That's the beauty of conventional money, because people, you know, like people way back in the day were like, we don't really know what XYZ is worth. We're going to have to put like an actual amount on it and something that like an equalizer to it.
Yeah, they're really good points, guys. And just back to my example before, an ounce of gold, a 200 kilo, beef animal, that's $20. That's $20 US a kilo, all butchered, processed, cut up, vacuum sealed, etc. So, if in terms of, the zombie apocalypse, how many cows worth of gold do you want to put away? Right. Adam, I've just put my details in the chat. Would you be able to put your details for anyone that wants to get in touch with you to talk more about, silver, the ATM service, Melbourne, etc.?
Lovely. I'll do that straight away.
And guys, just as we wrap up, was there any questions we missed, or has anyone thought of anything they would like to ask while we're still live? Feel free to type it in the chat or jump in for a chat.
I mean, my question was more about getting my account set up with Adam, but I don't know if he wants to go through that with just me or if he wants to go through that in like with everyone here. I don't mind either way.
Alana, thank you. It's very easy for us to do, and I'll have it created for you tonight before I go to bed. If you would be kind enough just to send a text message to the number that I've just I'm not sure how to send this. Do I push enter or some other button? Oh, there we are. There we are.
Yes, wait, thank you.
Any other
Also,
questions, guys?
I've put the Telegram group there so that anybody who doesn't want to engage but just wants to watch, and you can watch for months and months if you want to watch, that's okay. But the Telegram group, that silver guy, is where I put every piece of news and updates and stuff. The ATM is a transaction system, and you're welcome to go in there and log in as demo. When it asks for your ID, put the word demo and use the PIN number of 9999. So I'll just put those in the chat as well.
And Adam, before we wrap up, in the email Kelly sent out, I think there was a giveaway or something you were alluding towards.
Last month I gave away 15 ounces. That's about $1,500. I'm not wealthy. Convince me why I should give someone an ounce for doing nothing.
I didn't say you have to give anyone anything. I just saw something in the email and I wanted to ask.
I don't quite know how to run. I don't quite know how to run with 27 people watching a fair way to give away $100. What I will do is I'll say this: if people are kind enough to text me their name, I will put them in draw, and I will notify all of the participants who won, and I will pull one of those numbers at random, and I will give away an ounce. So you can go into a random prize draw for 1 ounce of silver, which at retail right now is about $90, and yeah, I'll give one away.
That's really, really lovely. Thank you, Adam. And just so
Cool.
everyone knows, as a host, I will not be entering the competition, so that increases your odds.
All you have to do is just send me a text. Put a dad joke in there or something funny, so that when I read them, I'm entertained. But you don't have to do that. Just send me a hug or something, and I'll make sure someone gets notified that they've won. By the way, the ATM contains a lucky dip game that you can play for free once a month, and the lucky dip game is 25 imaginary cupboards. All you have to do is tap a number, and if the silver is hidden in that cupboard, you win it. You get told you've selected the correct cupboard, and you then must ring me or text me to say, Adam, I won in the lucky dip game.
That's so
and I'll send you an
cool.
ounce. So you can play that. You can play that once a month. Yeah. Look, I give away a lot of silver because I've learned that I don't have the ability. I was broke 4 years ago. I started this on nothing, and now I'll give you a bit more data. I live in a bus in the bush. It's my tiny home. I'm off grid, no letterbox. I'm not your Ferrari driving, Sydney siding bullion dealer. I'm a bald Kiwi with an intention to do some good stuff for the community. And when I met Kelly and came to the MSR Expo, I knew that her community was full of the type of people I like dealing with. So here we go. And we've got a lot of work ahead of us. We're running out of time. You realize if every one of us had 100 ounces of silver, we would screw the banks over, don't you? We'd get rid of the monster. You might not know that, but now you do.
What a beautiful way to end things. Thank you so much, Adam, for your very valuable time. I learned a lot. I'm sure everybody else did too. For everyone still online, in the chat, Adam's put his details there. Please save them and reach out to him.
So I'll tell you, I've had incoming messages from numbers ending in 987, 233, 984, 322, 641, 459, and 884. No, that's someone logging in as a demo. So 1 minute ago, someone logged into the ATM as a demo user. Oh, someone else did that 2 minutes ago. So there we go. A few people want to be in the draw. Good on you.
Thanks again. And thanks everybody for joining. Yeah, I hope to see you all again soon on another impromptu hosting. Thanks again, Adam.
Thanks, guys. That was really valuable. Thank you. Enjoy your night.
Thanks, Adam.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mary, for hosting. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Here we are at the Freedom Summit Live 2025, and it is bigger and better than ever. We're in a new chapter of My Self-Reliance. We've taken the PREP matrix across our 8 key pillars of self-reliance. They are food, finance, health, relationship, education, technology, communication, and faith. We are taking our PREP matrix across to our hubs and our hub leaders across Australia so that you can have self-reliance in your community.
Hey guys, I'm Isaac from Natural Art Form, and I found my way here. I met Kelly over at the Living Free movement at the festival they did this year. I love what you guys are doing. I love the whole My Self-Reliance idea. This community is super important. I'm very glad to see things like this popping up this close to Sydney. It's like your tribe.
Hi, this is Michael O'Neill from the Heart Party, and I'm here at the My Self-Reliance Summit, and it's amazing. I'm just having a wonderful time. There's great people here, the speakers are great, and Kelly, the organiser, she's outstanding. Love your work. I recommend that anybody, if you have the opportunity in the future to come to this summit, make it a date. It's in the most beautiful setting. It's just fantastic. The food's great. I had a wonderful meal down here. Everything is good. I feel very much at home.
What's really beautiful about this community is the honesty and transparency and just a real essence of friendship and family.
So if you want to be a part of a movement that's making a difference, reach out to me. I'm Kelly Wilkins. Come and join us.